Set. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our first ever Jobs 101 seminar or webinar series. It's Navigating Your Career. Sorry for the 10-minute delay. We've been having some technical issues. But to go straight, I'd like to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. Our speaker is Ms. Romila Ana Mirador. Roan has over 14 years of HR experience, which she gained in Singapore and in the Philippines. She's been a recruitment and HR business partner, employee engagement manager, and recruitment and talent acquisition delivery lead supporting the ASEAN, Greater China, and China regions across different industries like manufacturing, financial services, BPOs, and professional service industries. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Rowan. Thank you very much, Rowan.
Thank you, Kerwin. So I'm not sure if I can be heard by everybody. Can you just give me a thumbs up? And thank you for all the 24 people who are spending their Saturday looking for some exciting learning. So I would just like to see if you can hear me clearly. So if you can give a reaction on your screen, there's a reaction button. If you can just click on the thumbs up sign, awesome. So yeah, cool. Good. All right. So welcome once again, and thank you for spending, like I mentioned, your Saturday. So let me share my screen, and let me tell you some items on how or navigating our career. Can I just have a show of hands, or if you can do in the chat box, anyone who is a fresh grad and is looking for a new role or looking for a role, just enter the workforce before I share my screen. In the chat box, if you can just say me or I, if you're new to the workforce. And if you aren't, can I know if there are any people managers here? Managing a team, managing the performance, delivering, or responsible for the performance of other people. Okay, and also if there, I just want to have a quick look so that we can cater the examples. Any individual contributors but are working with a variety of people across levels? If you can just give me a reaction. They're using the reaction button again. Good. Okay, cool. How about students? Do we have any students? If you can just give me a thumbs up now. None. Okay. Looks like we have a variety of people. Any non-Tagalog speakers? If we have any non-Tagalog, non-Filipino speaking participant, I might have to give some Tagalog examples or later. All right, let me just share my screen. Sorry, I'm just having some technical trouble sharing my screen, and beg your pardon about this. Okay, there you go. I don't think I'm able to share. Hang on a minute. There, okay, sure. Let me know if my screen has loaded. Okay, so our topic for today is about navigating your career. And I reckon because you're here, either you're looking how to navigate your career, why you should navigate your career, or looking for directions and so on. So before we begin, I will tell you first, what is this about? or what is this not about? So navigating careers, usually we have some tools, or we have, as in navigating life or, physical places, we need some tools like a compass, we need some directions or guide like the lighthouse or maps, so to speak. So let me tell you first what I'm not going to talk about, or what this is not going to be. I won't be telling you some magic formula as to a step 1 to 5. I'm not going to tell you specific schools of thought, but I'm going to put that together. So if you are looking for a navigation path or map, this is not what I'm going to discuss. Okay. Also, this is not about telling you a step-by-step guide on how to navigate your career in specific periods of time in your career. We're looking at a more generic conversation where you will be able to adapt this into your individual situations. Okay, so let me tell you what it is. So this is, like I mentioned, this is specific. This is more on arming you with some tools, some knowledge, and awareness for you to be able to adapt to your specific situation as you navigate your career. So let me begin by saying one navigation tool that I'm going to talk about is your emotional intelligence. So why emotional intelligence? A lot of people actually, or a lot of talks have been done, or a lot of books, a lot of articles have been published about emotional intelligence. So let's just initially define this. Mayer and Salovey in 1997, encourage you to look at the screen, said that emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive emotions, makita, maramdaman, masense, to access and generate emotions so as to assist thought, understand emotions, emotional knowledge, and to reflectively regulate emotions so as to promote emotional and intellectual growth. So they're one of the firsts to define this. There's another person that I truly admire and follow, Daniel Goleman, but I'll tell you more about him later as well. But we are going to also talk about a couple of, we're going to go into this in depth. So, sorry. So what is emotional intelligence is also, in more usual terms or regular terms, it's your capacity to recognize your own feelings, sarili, the self, those of others, kapwa, for motivating ourselves and for managing emotions effectively in ourselves and in relation to others. So usually it begins with your own or sa sarili, from inward towards others. And it's actually an intersection of emotions and general mental ability. So before this, right, I want to ask you if there are any, because I'm going to share a little bit of personal story here. When I was graduating in college, I underwent a breakup just before graduation. And I remember all of my batchmates were busy happily applying for graduation, because my school, it's required in our school to apply for graduation. And I was in bed, curled up like a baby, or I'm in a fetal position, mourning my breakup. And looking back, now that I learned this, right, I wouldn't exactly call myself just an average student, but I had, I graduated, I was in the top 10 in elementary, high school, and college, but during college, I was 2 years delayed in my college graduation because of that fetal position. Wasn't able to handle my emotions. So I'd say that emotional intelligence is an intersection of emotions and general mental ability. Loads of people are intelligent, but if they can handle their emotions, they're not going to go far. Let me see, there's some chat. Okay. So moving on, what is it? Let's just establish this. It describes the behaviors that sustain you in challenging roles as your career becomes more demanding. And therefore, it is imperative that we talk about this from a perspective of navigating your career, because your emotional intelligence determines, describes, and insinuates the behaviors that help you actually as you go in your various career situations or roles. So the higher we are in the organization, the more demanding the situations are, the more demanding the people are, and the more demanding the role entails. So the more demanding the roles are that we are taking, or responsibilities that we are taking. So why EI? So it used to be IQ. Loads of people talk about IQ. You should have X, X number of there's a score, right? When you measure this, there's a score for you to be called a genius. So that it's all IQ. Why the shift to EI, or emotional intelligence? Why is this important? There have been researches globally. So I'd say it's majority of the people on Earth, I reckon, or a good representation of the population, has found that emotional intelligence is twice as important as IQ in predicting outstanding performance. So if you're an HR professional, you'd like your employees to be emotionally intelligent, not just, mentally intelligent. And if you're a manager, same. If you are navigating your career, it would be good as well for you to know what your EI is, or for you to have a good EI, because it is what differentiates the very best in the top 20% of leaders. So if you think about it, if you're beginning your career, navigating your career upwards or sidewards, if you're like looking to widen your scope in the same level, it is the same. It is how you handle your emotions vis-a-vis that of others, and reacting to those emotions of others is what's going to differentiate you from other people within your circle. So it's been researched on. It's actually what differentiates outstanding performers from average ones. And we're going to dig deeper slightly into that. So it's why EI, it's actually crucial for all types of relationships, from your personal to your professional. So why do we talk about, or why did I indicate personal there? Because there are a lot of things happening in the personal space that affects your personal life. So if you think about it, I want you to reflect for about a minute or two. I'm going to ask you, has there ever been a time where there are personal circumstances or personal events in your life that has actually impaired your ability to move forward professionally? If there are, well, which I'm pretty sure there might have been for some people, right? Or for most of us, it determines, or it proves that our emotional intelligence is very important in both personal and professional relationships. And there is let me say it, just segue a bit. It's a very thin line that differentiates your personal and professional life, because everything that is personal is also professional, vice versa, very thin. And that's the reason why in the workplace you have a tendency to not like or dislike somebody, even if they're not doing anything to you, because of that very thin line. Anyway, that's another exciting learning topic that we can talk about in another forum. So let's focus on EI. So people are important in any part of the business, and emotional intelligence is all about people and relating and working with them. So if your role, right, is in sales, or if your role is in a lead position, your role is in an SME, subject matter expert, even if you're in manufacturing, the people who run machines are still people with feelings, right? And you, in that role, you're still dealing with people like you who have emotions that impact their relationships to you and to others. Hence the importance. So moving on, emotional intelligence, exhibiting this means you're using your emotions to increase your motivation and focus, which will help you navigate your career further, or take your career further. It also, and this is very important, I'm going to go back to this later, that EI also equips you to detach yourself from powerful, operative word, short-term emotions. That detachment, you actually need to focus better on your tasks at hand, or dealing with the people that you need to deal with at hand. So let's just run through this quickly. This is very technical. I want to go into a more personal items later on. Just an emotional intelligence competency inventory. So self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. Got this from Daniel Goldman, who is a contributor in a management consulting firm called Korn Ferry. So self-awareness is your emotional self-awareness. Self-management is emotional self-control, adaptability, achievement orientation, and positive outlook. Please have a look quickly. Well, just passing through them. Emotional awareness is also about your empathy and emotional awareness in the workplace or with other people. Relationship management is your influence, your inspirational leadership, and teamwork. So now all of this, right? This technical terms that I mentioned, which I'll wrap up in a bit. What is the most important thing to do? So you probably ask, so Ryan, you talk about emotional intelligence, you talk about why we should have this and all. And what do I need to do? Like, this is also highfalutin and vague terms for some people. Some it could be new. For some, I've read about this in HBR or some other, websites. What do we need to do to navigate our career or to help us with our career? Some people are. I'm going to say this knowing the fact that some people their career trajectory is upward. So trying to get a higher position, trying to vie for a higher rank. And then there are some whose trajectory is, horizontal. You're trying to get a wider coverage within the same rank. So if you're just taking care of one country, you take care of another country. If you're talking about taking care of one territory, expanding your leadership coverage or your coverage or oversight of another territory. So something to that effect. So what do we need to do? It's to focus on the self, especially as contrasted with another self or the world. Actually, guys, this is how Merriam-Webster defines ego. So at this point, let me tell you that the most important thing to do to navigate our career is to focus on and manage and maybe eventually tame our ego. Why? So I want you to reflect into this image. If you think about the word ego, if you take away the E, this is a powerful image for me. Think about it. If you take away the E, then you have the word go. Which means probably ego is what is hindering us from taking our careers further or navigating our careers smoothly. Or maybe it's also what is making our career difficult right now. Let me delve into that further. Any questions so far, by the way? Kerwin, do we have any questions? I'm not seeing the chat box. Okay, if you don't have yet, yeah, let's go further. So how do we work on, how do we focus on the ego and how do we take away the E in the ego so we can go? That's basically what the image says. We have to recognize the ego needs. So I could think of two, or I've learned of two major ego needs that we need to manage, tame, and be aware of. I think that's the more important thing. And there are variations of this, and I'm going to tell you some examples, but let's focus on two, which is the need to be right and the need to look good. There are variations of this, the need to be liked. There's also that. There's also the need to be perfect, but we can all summarize or simplify them into the need to be right and the need to look good. I guess I'll also say some people, there's a very deep need for them to be liked, or it can be also to look good. So this ego needs, how can they hamper us from taking our careers further? Or why do they hinder us or stop us from growing? So your need to be right, I want you to think about your last argument with a colleague or your last discussion with a teammate or with your lead. Where was that coming from? Why was there that conversation in the first place? So I hope you were able to recall. Let's look at and think about and reflect on the need to be right. So what is it exactly? Your need to be right, obviously, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but to simplify, the need to be right is actually that incessant need inside for you to prove that what you're saying or what your position is in a particular issue or particular project is the right way to go. The need to look good is also is talking about or it describes your incessant need not to be to be liked, or at least this is what determines you in Filipino. This is what describes our feeling pag ayaw nating napapahiya. So like, or that we can't admit that we need help. So this is, how do you recognize this ego needs? The need to look good, they're characterized by, one, we're ashamed or we're shy to ask for help and admit that we are actually in need of help, of support, of more knowledge, of more training. So yeah, that's a need to look good. That's a characteristic of having the need to look good. Having the need to look good also, what it looks like in the workplace. Sometimes if you're a leader, when your people are not performing and you get angry at them for not performing without asking what is wrong or what they're going through, also need to look good, because in many places, especially in the Philippines, it's mostly it's command responsibility, right? Minsan, if you think about it, if you're leading people or kahit kayo, if you're working with other people, minsan it's like that, right? You think, ba't ganun yung team member ni ganito? Why is this person like that? And then we think about it reflects of the leader. And in personal lives, it's also the same as kids. Minsan sinasabi natin yan, like, yung anak ni ganito, kasi siguro yung magulang, ganyan. So, ikaw din, iisip mo, pag ikaw naman yon, parang iisip mo, grabe, nakakahiya, anong sasabihin nila sa akin, ganyan ka. So, those are good examples or characteristics of need to look good. Need to be right, like I said, no, we need to prove always that what we're saying is correct and the way to go. So all this needs, I hope I was able to paint a clear picture of what this needs. The recognition of this ego needs will help us actually not just in our career, but in personal life as well. And if our personal life is very smooth, all the more that we're able to have a smooth navigation of our careers. So I also want to highlight that within the tool of emotional intelligence is being aware of your limiting beliefs. These are top 3. So I am bad, I am not lovable, I am not good enough. How does this look like in your career? So we'll go to the mostly, this is very prevalent in many places I've worked in the Philippines, and in many people I've encountered, including myself. So I'm not some person to say I have not had this or I'm not feeling this anymore. I still do. But being aware of them is what changes everything. So the first one, I'm going to go from the bottom to top. I'm not good enough. How many times in your life did you not take a project or did you not raise your hand for a big responsibility because you think you're not prepared for it, or that you're not equipped, or that wala ka pa dun sa level na yon? That already hampers you from navigating your career further, that belief. So what is the second one? I'm not lovable. Ayaw mag-lead because I am like this, I'm not like that, I won't be accepted there. I don't want to talk because they might think what I'm saying is not convincing. I am bad this is all of this, another example, or how does it look like in the workplace? I am bad would be something like you don't want to share feedback because you will look bad. We're going to look into the need to look. I'm going to go back to this, the need to look good. That's an ego need if you're scared sometimes, or if you don't want to give a feedback that is actually needed. And then, but you don't because you don't want to offend somebody, quote unquote. There's a need to look good. And sometimes you still do because they think you're bad anyway. So there's that limiting belief. So many times in our careers, we're not able to raise our hands up, for promote. We don't have the confidence to raise our hands up for promotion, take on more responsibilities, or provide or talk, basically provide our opinion or feedback because of this items that I just mentioned earlier, the ego and the limiting beliefs. All of these make our career path, if you imagine the career in an ocean, they are the waves and the current that go against us. So what do we do, right? So to make sure that we navigate it smoothly, because we cannot remove this, despite the currents and the waves. Those two being our limiting beliefs and our ego, right? So if you ask me, how? Paano ba? What do I do? What do I do with these items? Because we can't take them away. Right? Hindi sila mawawala because these are natural to us at some point, or instinctive for some. Oops, sorry. So what do we do actually? One tool that is under emotional intelligence is being aware, being self-aware. I think I'm gonna go back to, I hope you were able to remember my other slides earlier, saying that emotional intelligence is being able to manage your own emotions, which are triggered by this, two limiting beliefs in your ego, vis-a-vis another person. So if we are self-aware, we are able to make true choices for our careers. So I'm gonna give an example. Usually I am, lots of people think I'm intimidating, and I can be because of, I think for some reason, aura, iba, others, something to do with RBF, or pardon my French, resting bitch face, or sometimes gana lang, it's just intimidating. I don't know if there's anyone in the room who has that feedback, but I've always had this. And so a lot of people are maybe, for lack of better terms, scared of me. So I lead teams, right? And people, actually, I'm not able to lead effectively if I don't recognize that I have this feedback from people. So I need to be aware of that scary emotion that they have to me. So usually, ako yung maunang mag-adjust. I'll adjust first. So I'm gonna share with you another one story. So I have a team member who has, probably we have similar experience, almost similar age. So, leading somebody who's older than you or who's at your age is also very challenging. And really, he gets or the person, this person that I work with, he also had this very, I have recognized that he has got this as an example. Sorry, is there any questions so far? Sorry, I think I can hear something. Hello, can you still hear me, guys? Can we mute the participants, please? Thank you. Okay, going back. So I almost lost my train of thought. So like I said, I'm going to give you an example. Like I said, so we have I have this direct report. He also is very hot, very into, because he's a high performer, he's got high expectations of himself. Some point when he gets corrected, he feels really bad about it. And syempre, I am the boss, so kumbaga, I want to give the feedback because I want to help the person improve. So one time we had a disagreement, and he pointed out to me that, actually I was wrong of my coaching point. So basically what I told the person is that it was a question of work-life integration. I had to contact him after working hours because of an emergency in the workplace where I need him to make the call or talk to his direct report because I'm not very in-depth with the issue. So he was calling me out and he was really angry, and of course, minsan, I don't know if may mga leads pa dito. Some point, right? You'd feel na, wait lang, who am I to you? Yun yung mga tanong. Minsan, parang sino ba ako sa'yo para ganyanin mo ko? So, who am I for you to or who are, maybe two types of questioning. Who are you to talk to me like that? Or who am I for you to talk to like that? So things like this. However, I have applied this because, I don't have to, I know I'm right by saying that actually at some point, I think I can contact you beyond 6 p.m., especially on certain situations, because you do this. Well, for one thing, you do the same thing to me because I don't stop being your leader after 6 p.m., right? Gotta integrate the life. So, I mean, to slightly cut the long story short, I had to tame my ego a bit, let him vent out to me, and just listen. And I said, I think we should put this to rest tonight and catch or talk about this tomorrow. I wasn't even okay the following day. So I know now there's don't get me wrong, some feedback needs to be given right away, but some feedback you have to really wait to time it, because until you're able to tame your ego, those need to be right and need to look good, and your limiting belief of bad, not enough, and not good enough, and not lovable, you will not be able to effectively relate to other people you're working with. So let's put this in context of bosses too. Since all of us report to somebody, and if you're in the workplace, if you're an employee, very important that you work very closely and that you're able to be the person that your boss needs in his team or her team, for her to think that yes, you're the man or you're the woman to be gender sensitive, right? For the job. So how does this look as well? Or sometimes we have bosses who think they're being overstepped. When we are proactive or we're initiating something, if you're not aware of this, you're gonna be on the bad side of your boss, highly likely, and that's gonna put a little bit of siguro a bit of harang or hindrance from your career. It's gonna slow you down a bit, especially if in that role you're unable to navigate without the direction of the boss. So recognizing your boss's needs to be right and to look good, it also helps you become the person that they actually need in their team, and it builds trust, diba? So kasi usually what happens is, nangyayari, and this happens often in the workplace, nangyayari na we're afraid to talk to our bosses, call them out. If we feel that they're overstepping us or they're limiting us, and we're also afraid naman to say I can do it. So knowing your limitations or this ego needs and the limiting beliefs would actually help you relate to the other person. One thing is you need to be you need to be cognizant of your own ego need and limiting belief in that particular situation for you to be able to make a true choice. So true choice is how I know it sounds a bit of a highfalutin concept, but yung true choice is when you recognize that this is the ego speaking, and you recognize that this is the limiting belief making the decision, and then then thinking about the situation from that perspective, from that awareness, and making the decision that is best for you without meeting the ego need and thinking of the limiting belief. So siguro an example of this is long time ago, lots of people have already asked me to talk about lots of things, career questions. Can you do this? Can you talk about this and that? And I know I can talk, but I don't know what to talk about. That's what I was thinking. And that is really coming from the limiting belief of I'm not good enough. I mean, I'm just this girl. I'm not even responsible for this big of a responsibility. Before, I think this is what I was thinking, that I am, who am I? Di man ako sikat. I don't have a large social media following, but I know I have something in here in my heart and in my mind that I think would be able to help people. So finally said yes to exciting learning, knowing that this I am not good enough mindset is not going to help me and not going to help the world. And not going to help the world, because I think that all this limiting belief, I have a contribution. I can make a contribution to make the world a better the working place a better one for everyone by sharing my insights. So there, I think that's really something. I was thinking of some other examples, more recent ones that I know I'd go personal here, and I always think about this in the context of working with other people, working for other people. So I'll also tell you, in my career, I had a lead. So I was working for a boss who, she doesn't want us to be ahead of her. So hindi naman sa bawal proactive, like it's not that she doesn't encourage it, but she would like, or this person would like to have the idea come from her. So sometimes the experience ko, this lead would always, may initiative ako or some other people, they'd always say, oh, naisip ko na yan dati. Actually, I wanted to do this before, ganyan. So I know that recognizing that she probably has, some ego that she also needs to, he also needs to manage, made me step back a bit and ask her, or him rather, ask him rather directly, arming myself that, I don't have the need to look good in my team of leaders. So what I did talaga is I backed off a bit, stop making suggestions until I clarify with the boss kung ako ba, am I being or acting like the person he needs in his team. Exactly. And when I did this, when I asked him this, I was able to get a really good insight. So sinabi niya sa akin na nararamdaman niya na hindi ko siya sinusunod. He actually felt that I'm not being a good follower, and that good leaders are good followers. So he was expecting me to follow first before leading. And if you think about it, parang it's like nakakalimit, right? But when I started following by recognizing that he has an ego need vis-a-vis mine, and I tamed mine, or I managed mine, eventually, when I was able to gain his trust and his confidence that I'm not overstepping, and I actually managed his ego too, He also gave me the reins. So this is not about inauthenticity, right? We're trying to manage this part of us, our limiting beliefs and our ego, vis-a-vis other people, so that we can be our authentic selves. They can let us be our authentic selves and make the true, the true career choices that are good for us and ultimately good for the organization. So what else, right, is it going to help us, or how else is it going to help us in our career navigation? When you are cognizant of your limiting beliefs and you're able to manage and tame your ego, you have a better relationship with yourself. Nababawasan yung mga moments, you lessen the moments where you think, oh, I should have done that. The regretful moments. Or that, nakakainis yun, yoko na sa kanya. Resentment moments. Diba? Or like, I don't like this person anymore because he's doing this to me. Nababawasan we lessen these moments where it hampers us from relating to others and working well with others and collaborating with others, getting others' experience vis-a-vis ours, and synergizing them. So the moment that we are able to do that, we have a better relationship with ourselves. And I know it sounds a little bit, I would like to use the word highfalutin. How does it look like? But if you really, dig deep inside, when you have a better relationship with yourself, the more and the better you're able to relate to others. Because you no longer have resentment feelings of yourself that you're reflecting to other people, or that nababawasan, it lessens that vibe that you give off negatively, because your relationship with yourself is positive. So when you have that, we are also able to work better with lots of people around us. Our bosses, our direct reports, our peers, even sometimes our competitors. Because if you work better, or if you're able to have a good relationship with your competitors, you get ideas and you get experiences from them, and you're able to integrate that or synergize that with yours, the higher your performance would be. I mean, all of us are in the business of people. So the better your relationship with yourself, which is a person, vis-a-vis other people, which is what the business is comprised of, the better it is for our career. All of these, right, help us move forward. All the people that you encounter who similarly have limiting beliefs and ego to manage as you are and as we are, when we're recognizing those in them, we're able to work well with them. We're able to let them work with us to help us push ourselves, and navigate our careers amidst all these strong currents and waves. So when you have a good relationship with yourself, because you're able to tame this, it translates, like I mentioned, I think this is the third time I'm saying it, translates to our relationship with other people. And the better that relationship with, the better these people will be willing to help us navigate our careers too. So ultimately, right, it's not only about how great you are. Most people here, probably because you're spending your Saturday trying to improve yourself, I know that you're great, or you're on the way to being great, or you are great already and you're aiming and aspiring to be greater than who you were yesterday or the other day. But it's not just how great you are, but how great you are to work with. And I want to, lastly, my last point is I'm going to quote Daniel Goleman, the father of emotional intelligence, contemporary emotional intelligence. He said, if you don't have self-awareness, which is what is given to you when you have a higher level of emotional intelligence. If you're not able to manage your distressing emotions, and if you can't have empathy, because you're not able to understand other people vis-a-vis yourself. Have effective relationships. No matter how smart you are, you're not going very far. So in summary, navigating our careers is having a higher level of self-awareness, of emotional intelligence, to help us tame what needs to be tamed, that is our ego, and help us overcome our limiting beliefs, those three that I mentioned. And I tell you, I can say fairly, not because I've read this in a book, but I'm also practicing this. It helps us navigate our career smoothly amidst and despite of strong currents that can be against us and strong waves that can be daunting. And with that, I want to thank you for spending your Saturday. I have some questions. I think we have some questions in the chat box. Do we have, Corinne? Okay, let me stop my. Sorry.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me just resume and show. That's not. I think I was not able to share this. It's not about how great you are and how great you are to work with. And Daniel Goleman saying, I don't think I was able to share that because I realized I wasn't sharing my screen. Yeah. Thank you. That's it. I think we have some questions, Kerwin.
Yeah, okay. I think first question is, what will be the most important behaviors that can sustain your career?
Okay. This is a very generic one, but it would be great to answer this from a context. But maybe let me give some tips, behaviors. I'd go back to self-awareness. When the more you are self-aware, the more you're able to be mindful. You're able to be mindful of your behaviors that are necessary in each situation, important situation in your career. So I'd say the most important behavior or most important, I think we can call it behavior, is being self-aware, catching yourself. So, being able to restrain yourself before reacting. I think that's really important because emotions are powerful and sometimes they are short-term. Minsan nasabi mo na, tapos how many times have you had na ba na parang, sana di ko sinabi yun. So, yun, I think being able to, I would say, I hope I was able to answer your question. Is it Jose? I saw the chat box now. I was able to answer your question, Jose. So, very important that you're able to use the restraint sparingly. Sometimes you need to let it out. Sometimes you need to step back. And this awareness, I think, of these situations will be, or of the need for these situations is going to help you sustain your career. Lots of careers I've seen were ruined, or not just here, in Singapore where I practically adulted as a professional. Lots of people I have seen lose it. The moment at certain moments, and that is unerasable. So being able to practice the self-awareness before reacting is very important. I think that's very important.
Second, I think is, if you can take away ego, how do we turn around ego into something positive and useful? Because I think you mentioned a while ago,
Yeah.
even with the slide, right, where you have to take away E so that you can go and to proceed. But there are people, I think, who really have ego, and they know they have it, and I think I'm just thinking this may be the context, no? That um they can't really remove that ego. So how do you turn it around to make it something positive and useful in the context of navigating your career?
So, I really love this question because it's mind-boggling as well. So, if you think about it, it's true. No, I think you and me, we all agree, cannot take away the ego because it's innate and inherent in us. But how do we turn ego into something positive and useful is to be mindful of the ego. So, when you're mindful of your ego, that it's your ego that's making you talk this way or react this way or be angry at something or feel strongly about something, if you're able to recognize that, if you're cognizant of that, na baka ego ko lang to, this is my need to be right, this is my need to look good, and this is not the way to go. I think I should, either defer the reaction or defer the action. Diba? Then you are already turning it into something useful and positive. If you're mindful of your ego, if you're able to think about, I think it's also asking yourself first, parang think about it na, okay, this reaction of mine right now, say you're angry or you're happy or you're envious of somebody in the team, or you don't want to deal with somebody in the team because he said something like this to you. And this is your reaction towards that person. You don't want to work with the person, you're angry with the person, or you're trying to avoid the person, for example. If you're aware of that, that awareness already is helping you turn your ego into something positive. Because the ego is a check, parang it's checkpoint. Your awareness is your checkpoint of kumbaga, if I will put an image to this, if I put an image to this, imagine a checkpoint. Your ego is the speeding car, and your awareness is the checkpoint that says, oops, wait, do you go on or do you stop here first? So that checkpoint, your self-awareness, the mere fact na ginagawa mo, you're already doing it and you're being conscious of it, you're already making your ego positive and useful. Kasi without that, pag hindi mo iniisip, tuloy-tuloy ka lang, walang stop and go, you don't think of, should I or shouldn't I, kind of thing. So there, we really can't take away the ego. What we can do is to be mindful of it, to manage it, and eventually maybe tame it. It goes out from time to time, that's for sure. But the awareness of whether you're coming from being the need to be right, the need to be perfect, the need to look good, is good, is powerful enough when you're aware of that to make the ego useful and positive. I hope I was able to answer your question, Jing.
I think we're going over time, but maybe very briefly, how do we reconcile that we are not good enough as a hindrance to success, and that same attitude that will drive you to be better and succeed?
Okay, the recognition, this is a very good question. And, I had this dilemma for years and years, to be honest. Yung we're not good enough. I mean, this is a very long, another exciting learning talking about we're not good enough, because usually the we're not good enough is deeply rooted in our childhood. But how do we, I'm going to answer your question, how do we reconcile this? When I'm going to go back to the previous question then. When you're really aware, if you take a stop, kung, natatakot ka ba kasi you don't want to go, you don't want to move forward, or you don't want to take on more responsibilities because you feel that you're not good enough yet, or you're not good enough, or wala ka nun, you will never be good enough. If you're aware of that, kasi there are many choices that we have done. If you take a stock of it, many choices that we have done that was coming from the feeling that we're not good enough. So that is hindering you from success. If you are cognizant that that is where you're coming from, hindi ka good enough. If you take that away, you're not good enough, you're aware, and when you recognize that, kasi hindi na ego yung in play, meaning alam mong you're not good enough, but you can, and you should ask for help, or you should shout out, hey, I think I'm not yet good enough, but I want to, or I'm not good enough, but I think I can a little bit, 80% of that. I think that will drive you to succeed. Recognizing that you're not good enough and being okay with it and asking for help. Recognizing that there are other people who can help you with your not being good enough to make you enough is something that you can arm yourself with to drive you and your performance succeed. I love to give an examples because I had this for years, Marcos, until recently when maybe 5 years ago when I encountered this topic and I was made self-aware of my not good enough limiting belief. It has hindered me from being the artist that I want to be. And, when I opened that door, recognizing that, I always thought I'm not beautiful enough to be on TV, but it's quite of a bit of journey. Sorry, pero I have acted in several TV series in the Philippines when I started recognizing that this not good enough attitude is not helping me. But, recognizing na I need help, I need to fix something, I need to at least learn how to groom myself or to act better, need to be schooled, ganyan. So, yon. I hope that I was able to answer somehow. I have a very long answer there, but I'm conscious of time. But ultimately, in summary, that's it. You have to recognize that you're not good enough, and you have to admit it, because the non-recognition is a hindrance. When you recognize it, you open a door, and you take it further when you raise up your hand and say, "I need help on this," or like tell yourself, "Oh, I'm not good enough in this." Then recognizing that I am enough, I am worthy, and I'm gonna make myself even more by arming myself with, whatever is you recognize is needed. Sometimes it can be coaching, sometimes it can be forgiveness from people who've made us feel that we're not good enough, or it could also be sometimes forgiveness of the self. What you put to yourself as a limiting factor.
Okay, last question. I think, how do you detect if a job seeker is emotionally stable for the job? And what could be an appropriate question to measure this?
Good question. Okay. There are many school of thoughts about interviewing. Sabi nila, past performance is a good, indicator of future performance. And then some people said you hire for potential and not for past achievements. There is actually a formal test on how to measure emotional intelligence, but if you don't have this in your company, a good appropriate questions would be behavioral-based questions. For example, if the role entails that they need to work with team members, ask a question about, they can share a time when they have, for example, if you're determining whether they can be a team member, or they can lead, or they can take the opinions of others. You can frame your question in a way that asks your candidate to tell you about the time when they had this experience. So as an example, let's say you need somebody who is, somebody who's got ingenuity, who is good in problem solving, and who is not afraid to try new things. So you can ask them, saying, can you share with me a time where you had to, initiate a change in the company or in your previous role, which was actually required in the situation. So ask them, was there ever a time where they had to do this? Kung ano yung what you're looking for? If they had, what was the situation? What did they do? What was the result? Yeah. So it should, be a behavioral-based interview would probably be would actually be a good measure. Emotional stability, well, there's a whole gamut of psychological and exams on this, but there are some on the internet you can find. Interview-wise, you can usually can make a good judgment call by asking them behavioral-based questions. And Stephen, I'm going to tell you, as a recruitment professional for quite a while, I do want to put a science to recruitment, to be honest, but sometimes, or more often than not, the more you talk to people, the more you say that your gut feel also has a role to play. So, watching body language is also good measure, or a very useful way to determine. But I would recommend you ask for behavioral-based questions and determine the behaviors that they exhibited in those particular situations. I mean, you can cater your questions in a way. So I I mean, if you think about, if you ask me if there's an appropriate question, there is, but that should be specific to what you want to find out about the candidate.
Okay, so I think we're done with all of the questions. Very nice questions and on-point answers that you've given. We've gone over time. Thank you very much, Romila Mirador, for a very wonderful discussion this afternoon. I hope that we can invite you again in our future webinars that will be
Yes.
not only with career but in all facets of HR and in talent acquisition. So
Thank you.
very
Thank you for
much.
having me.
All the attendees, thank you very much and have a happy weekend.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you appreciate we extended a little bit for 11 minutes, but I hope you find it worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Happy weekend and God bless you. Stay safe.